What's good, YouTube fam? It's your boy Tony, aka the Senator of Chaos and Controversy, and I'm here because I wanted to do a reaction video on another YouTuber that I follow. I don't mention him as much, but you know, I sometimes when you touch upon certain sensitive subject matters that strike a nerve um, and get under some people's skin that you have to respond with something more tangible than emotions of your own, you know. And I listen to him because there's certain things that I don't have an acute knowledge of, and I always try to see other people's point of views and their perspectives on certain things because it would be that a lot of people are under the impression that I only listen to or cater to and get the feedback from of none other than people who are black, and that's false. But I understand people's assumption because when you go to talk about certain topics that are controversial, um, especially in regards to what they teach in schools in regards to our history, and the outlook on America and its defined definition on whether or not this country is racist or not. You know, and a lot of people want to exclude a lot of things. You know what I'm saying? To conveniently um, redesign the narrative. You know, like it's like saying, okay, somehow we have to have a do-over where we aren't reminded of horrific events that made us look bad and stuff like that. But anyway, this is me reacting to Beau of the Fifth Column. Um, I like his input. Um, a lot of the information he provides, is tangible, and it kind of encourages people to say, "Oh, damn, this man is very knowledgeable and he has a unique point of view, and he's not arrogant." You know what I'm saying? But I'm choosing to share this simply because here we go.
Well, howdy there, Internet people. It's Beau again. So, today we are going to talk about what the United States fundamentally is, or is not. Teaching history, a theory, and we're going to do this because I got a message, got a question to talk about it, a request to talk about it. Beau, can you talk about the absurdity of liberals arguing that we should teach American history that says America is fundamentally racist through Joe Biden's CRT? Biden's support of the theory means nothing because he passed the fundamentally racist 1994 crime bill. Can we please move past the idea that everything is racist and just teach real objective American history? Okay, so just...
No, I want people to understand that last part that he addressed when reading this person's question upon a request. When the request was, can we just move past? This means, can we just like conveniently skip over the horrific events that is a detrimental reminder of what America was like and how America affected a certain group of people? I mean, when you have something that distasteful where you don't want to be reminded of something that was messed up, it's like you choose to conveniently want to dismiss it, like out of sight, out of mind. But it doesn't fix a problem that was once created. It leaves things unresolved. there is no accountability. Conveniently, there is no accountability. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, it's crazy because like when you look at events that happen in other people's history, you know, people were made and held accountable for their crimes against humanity. But America seems to be the only country that chooses to conveniently not accept the accountability and acknowledge their crimes against humanity, especially within their own country. But anyway, I'm gonna allow him to continue. I mean, I'm not gonna allow him to continue because I am reacting to his video. But
quick little fact checks here. CRT is not Biden's thing. It's an academic movement. It doesn't have anything to do with Joe Biden. That's just not a thing. The 1994 crime bill, that's the Violent Crime Control and Law Enforcement Act. The sender claims it's fundamentally racist. I happen to agree. With that. And then we have the actual question, what they want discussed. Is the United States fundamentally racist? Well, first we have to determine what that means. Fundamentally racist. If you're just talking about people's attitudes, the people of the United States, are they fundamentally racist? Or generally speaking, are most people racist? Yeah. And that goes through the overwhelming majority of American history. Absolutely. So you could mean that. Or you could mean, is there some structural, institutionalized legislation that is racist? Well, let's just run through a timeline, and we'll see if it's there. Okay, pick your founding date, doesn't matter. 1776, 1789, does not matter, okay? From day one, there was institutional, legal racism. It was enshrined. It was a part of the American structure in slavery. That lasted until the 1860s, and then it went through a fundamental change.
again, see what he is talking about right now. Some of the events when he's going down and making references towards certain timelines from the 1700s to whatever the 1800s and stuff like that, and he's talking about what was law. You know what I'm saying? Who created the laws? You know what I'm saying? And that's it. And that was the question that I was basing my argument off of, which I know many would conveniently choose to ignore, would absolutely utilize that deflecting mechanism so they can avoid answering that question. Who was responsible for the laws that were created that prohibited freedom? Prevented African Americans from being educated. Um, Outlawed interracial relationships. Promoted segregation. You know what I'm saying? The whole argument when it came to the Civil War, what was that really about? Was it really about freeing slaves, or was it about the economic, disagreement between the North and the South? And as far as punishment goes, under the discussion that I saw, you know, my go-to guy Ricky Manor having a discussion with on an open panel with someone else, um, where the South was being penalized with tariffs and stuff for the ownership of slaves and how they were generating profits off of free labor and stuff like that, and their economy was thriving and stuff like that, while the North was whatever. But anyway, getting a little bit off topic. Again, who were the ones responsible for creating and passing laws that prevented people from being equal in this country? And was the ideals behind it racist? And who is responsible for that we could point the finger and hold accountable for it? And who was affected by these laws that was conveniently put in place to keep people under someone else's thumb. Hmm?
Okay? So you have that legal structure in the beginning. When it ended, almost immediately was replaced with a less severe, structural, institutionalized legal form of racism. And that lasted about 100 years, until the 1960s, late 1960s. That's just black Americans, right there. If we want to stop at this point, um, you don't even have to get into the Exclusion Act or the treatment of Native Americans. The removal of Native Americans is how it is framed in most American history books. The removal of Native Americans. That is like a really super polite way to describe ethnic cleansing, which is what it was. And that started from day one. And it doesn't matter um, how you want to define it. At the very least, that went on until 1918, because up until that point, the U.S. military was at arms fighting against natives. That's a pretty big chunk of American history there. But then we have something else, thanks to this email. According to this email, they claim, and I believe, that the 1994 bill, that act, was fundamentally racist. I agree with that. I think it was. I would note.
Now, this is the crime bill that everyone's making a reference to, that Jim Crow Joe is the name that a lot of people has given him, supported. Um, Obviously, it has affected the black community because it made the sentencing harsher and unfair and unrealistic in some cases. Like a lot of nonviolent crimes that were committed, people were getting harsh sentences versus a person that could actually take someone's life and get a lesser sentence than a person that was dealing drugs or taking drugs or becoming addicts or whatever the case may be. And it's just looking at the, what was it, the three strikes law or something like that. I mean, it was a lot of things, and then you gotta look at what community or what group of people who it has affected the most, and those who supported it. I mean, a lot of people, in retrospect, come back and say, yeah, that bill did more harm than it did good. But there was people who were standing to gain profit off of that bill being passed. Some on a political level, if you understand what I mean. But anyway, let me continue.
That while some of the effects of that have been lessened, that law's still on the books. A fundamentally racist piece of legislation is still there. So from day one, from the founding until today, you have racist legislation.
Thank you.
I would suggest that that would make a country fundamentally racist. If other nations that are held up as super racist nations studied the United States' laws to figure out how to do it, that might be a good sign too. That happened. The U.S. has a long history of racism. That is objective reality. That's history. That's the truth. You
People
can
can't handle the truth.
argue that it shouldn't be taught that way all you want, but at that point you're not arguing that you want history taught a certain way. You're arguing that you want mythology taught a certain way. The United States, its history is littered with racism, with structural, institutionalized racism. Racism that would suggest the country is fundamentally racist. It's just there. This isn't actually a controversial theory.
But it is.
As far as the United States being a fundamentally racist nation. Now, CRT is basically just saying, hey, we need to acknowledge this and acknowledge that there are injustices that are occurring, and using a historical lens to do that. That's kind of the purpose of history. You learn history so you don't repeat the mistakes.
And That's basically the standpoint that a lot of people are coming from. But people aren't allowed to express that because immediately, almost automatically, people are saying that, oh, you're teaching people how to become racist. What did he just say? So we are doomed not to repeat the same behaviors, the same actions, the same ideology, mythology. You know what I'm saying? Of repeating racism, having to prevent racism. And some people don't want to be identified as being racist, or they don't want their group of people to be having the title of being racist. But like I said, what you don't want, you have no problem with putting other stereotypes on other groups of people, and you want other people to go along and accept it. But when it comes to what your ancestors have already done, have already established, who have already ingrained in the timeline of history and stuff like that, you rather somehow what's that shit when you make a mistake on a piece of paper and and, and you try to go over it with a little white out. When you try to white out inconvenient events, gruesome details, things that make you look bad in history. You want to white it out. You want to dip your little thing in and that's better. Okay, we're good to go.
If the United States was a person who was 100 years old, and you discount this email and the 1994 stuff, and you just run from the founding to the end of segregation, that would mean that the person was 80 years old before they stopped being as racist, overtly racist, and just relied on the more subtle forms. If you met somebody who was 100 years old and throughout 80 years of their life they were overtly racist, you would probably suggest they were fundamentally racist. This isn't controversial. You can ban teaching this all you want, but it's reality. Those are the facts. The United States was founded and built on institutionalized racism. There's no real arguing this. It doesn't matter which pieces you want to count or discount. It's there. It's there underlying the United States' history. Does it get lessened over time? Yeah. Is it gone? No. If it was gone, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Exactly.
Until people are comfortable with acknowledging the past,
which they are not,
we have to assume that there's still a lot of racism.
There's no assumption.
Denying something that is objective reality. Anyway, it's just a thought. Y'all have a good day.
Okay, so that was Beau from the fifth column. And why every time I do a video, these people want to call? Anyway, that's what I got going on. But I just wanted to share that with you guys. But until next time, until next video, you know how it works.